cylinder in cross flow. Okay. So this is also an example of external flow. What exactly is this flow over a cylinder? So you can understand it with the help of this diagram. So focus it on this diagram. Now when we talk about the Reynolds number, in this case, in case of plate, it was L, the length of the plate. The characteristic dimension was the length of the plate. But here, as you can see, the characteristic dimension is the diameter of the cylinder. It is the diameter of the cylinder. So while finding out the Reynolds number, you will use the diameter of the cylinder as the characteristic dimension. Okay. So that's the difference between definition of Reynolds number in case of flat plate and in this case that is flow over a cylinder. Later on when we will talk about internal flow through a tube, there also the definition of Reynolds number is also the same. That is, it takes the diameter of the cylinder as the representative or characteristic dimension. Now we call it cylinder in cross flow also. That is because you can see this is the 2D two-dimensional diagram, and the axis of the cylinder is perpendicular to the page. So you can see this plus, it means that the axis is perpendicular to the page. So what you see is just the cross section of that cylinder, which is circular, and we are trying to explain the case with the help of this 2D diagram. And after this I will also play a YouTube video, and I hope you will be able to view as well as listen to it properly. And I will be playing it from YouTube because I also want the subtitles to be displayed, so that like if you cannot catch the words, you can read those subtitles. And that is basically a lab demonstration of flow over a cylinder, and it is quite nicely prepared, so it is worth watching, and it will help you to understand this thing better. Okay, so now here if you see the left hand side, you can see the fluid approaching this cylinder and it's having velocity v. So that is the upstream velocity. That is upstream velocity. That is because any effect of this cylinder is seen, the velocity of the fluid is constant and it is equal to v. Now you may focus on this streamline. So what you see is that earlier it had velocity equal to v, but as it approaches the cylinder, as you can see in the diagram, that the velocity here, you can see this point, and what is written is forward stagnation point. It is on the forward side, so forward, and stagnation point means the velocity has to be equal to 0. So this cylinder actually works as a obstacle in the flow of this fluid. So obviously, because the cylinder is stationary and the fluid is moving relative to that, or it is having relative velocity with respect to that, but this streamline or the particles moving along this streamline has to come to stagnation because of this hindrance which is not moving, right? But then they will change the direction of its path, and as it is shown here, it will start moving in this direction, that is along the periphery of the cylinder. Okay, so what will happen is here the local velocity, now we are, whatever we are discussing is generally now inside the boundary layer only, inside the boundary. So that boundary layer is clearly shown here. So the velocity here at the forward stagnation point approaches 0, but like the fluid doesn't remain that particle doesn't remain steady at this point. There is the forthcoming flow which pushes it and it starts moving along the periphery of the cylinder. So what is basically happening is that here the velocity was equal to 0 and now it accelerates. Velocity increases, it means it is accelerating. Now when velocity is increasing, what would happen to pressure? We are talking about local pressures. What would happen to pressure? Because velocity increases, the sum of the kinetic energy and pressure energy would be equal to 0, right? So because of that, the pressure energy or pressure would reduce as you move along the x direction. Now here x direction is taken along the periphery of the cylinder. So as you move in this direction, the pressure is decreasing. Now pressure is decreasing. So here, like if you say this x equal to 0 and then x equal to theta, what you find is that at x equal to theta, the pressure is lower. So of course, flow moves towards the direction in which the pressure is decreasing, right? So this pressure gradient, the pressure is decreasing along x. So this pressure gradient is called favorable pressure gradient, right? It is favorable to flow. It favors the flow, right? It helps the fluid to flow. So it's called favorable pressure gradient. So there is a favorable pressure gradient and the velocity increases or acceleration takes place. And that particle which had come to stagnation here again picks up the velocity and start moving along the periphery of the cylinder. Now what happens is near this at some point you can see this is the maximum cross section that you will have, and beyond that the cross section would reduce. So because of that, what happens is now the velocity should start reducing. The velocity should start reducing and pressure should start. When the velocity starts reducing, the pressure should start increasing. So now here, like somewhere downstream, what you may find is that the pressure is actually increasing. If you are moving along x, the pressure is increasing. Now this pressure is opposing the flow, right? Pressure is increasing. So that is called adverse pressure gradient. The following diagram displays or explains these things. So here you have adverse pressure gradient, and because of that, there is reversal of the flow. So there is reversal of the flow, and the fluid is not able to keep itself attached to the surface of the cylinder. It starts detaching from that, and it has now some rotational component also because it's start reversing its direction, and that is nothing but it is called generation of this is wake region, and there is generation of eddies. So eddies, like it's having rotational motion and it starts reversing, but then it cannot continue moving in the opposite direction because there is oncoming flow, right? It is forced convection, so there is something which is pushing this fluid forward. So like overall the fluid must move forward, but locally on the back side of the cylinder, like some parcels of the fluid like start moving in the opposite direction, and so there is rotational motion, but again they are pushed forward, and the flow continues in the direction further, right? So this is like understanding the flow pattern or physics of the flow when there is a flow over a cylinder. So it's one of the cases of external flow. So whatever I told earlier, some of those things are shown graphically in this diagram. So what you see is like here the velocity like near the cylinder. Now the pressure here, the pressure gradient is favorable. That is dP by dx is less than 0. It means that the pressure is decreasing as x is increasing, right? So that's favorable pressure gradient, and the fluid remains attached to the cylinder. Now beyond certain point, what happens is that this dP by dx starts becoming like at some point it will be 0 and then it will start becoming positive. So there is a So you can see like somewhere here you could see that now the change in this du by dx, right? So the here it is like if you draw a line here, there is a particular value du by dx is having a particular value, but here du by dx in a way you can say it's having infinite value, right? Change of u with respect to y. Sorry, I am du by dy, not du by dx, right? So here that gradient is vertical, right? And the velocity here has become equal to 0, right? Not just at the surface, but beyond the surface also, it has become 0. And now if you even move forward, then that du by dy has become negative here, right? Du by dy has become negative here. Here it was all positive, right? That is, u was increasing with y. Here u is not increasing with y, right? So du by dy is equal to 0, right here, and here it has become negative, right? Here it has become negative. So there is a reversal, as you can see, right? It starts moving in the opposite direction, right? Du by dy is negative, it means u is moving in the opposite direction to the oncoming flow. So there is a flow reversal taking place, and because of that, these vortices or eddies are formed, and you see that like this is nothing but the separation taking place. So beyond this point, when u becomes equal to 0 here, du by dy becomes equal to 0 here, the flow separation takes place. That is, the flow or the fluid starts detaching from the cylinder. It seems to be like remaining attached to the cylinder here, but it starts getting detached here, and there is a reversal taking place, and vortices or eddies are formed. So there is a separation of flow taking place, right? So that is what something which is not seen in flow over a flat plate. And it is seen that if the flow is laminar, then this separation would take place at around theta is equal to 140 degrees, right? Theta is equal to 140 degrees. So how do you calculate this theta for this cylinder? At this point, at the forward stagnation point, theta is equal to 0. And then like if you are on the opposite side, theta is 180 degrees. So you're talking about 140 degrees. So just at about 40 degrees before this, the like you may call it the end of the cylinder, end point of the cylinder, right? The just opposite of the forward stagnation point. So that is 180 degrees. So before 40 degrees before that, the flow separation takes place if the flow is if the flow is I'm sorry, if the flow is turbulent. Okay, if the flow is turbulent, this theta is at 140 degrees, but if the flow is laminar, then the separation takes place much earlier, right? Separation takes place much earlier. So this seems to be an example where the like the separation, as you can see, it seems that it is at somewhere around 140 degrees. So this could be an example of turbulent flow, but if the flow is laminar, then separation would take place much earlier. So let us watch a video where this is demonstrated. So flow visualization is shown, how the flow is visualized. So try to focus and understand the video, and if possible, I will try to also intervene in between and explain you the things if I feel that you like it may be more helpful for you to understand it. If I'll speak in between if required. Okay, so let me start the video. So Dr. Turner, who is a professor at in biology department at some university, I suppose in US, has carried out this flow visualization in his laboratory, and he is explaining this phenomena of flow over a cylinder or cylinder in cross flow. Yes, so uh, he has a pipe as it is showing, as he is showing, which like, and he will be investigating the flow over this pipe. So that is a cylinder in cross flow, and to be able to understand the effect of Reynolds number, all of you are familiar with the Reynolds number and its definition. So basically, the type of flow around or over this cylinder will depend upon the value of Reynolds number. Though in general, whatever I explained will be true. That is the kind of that, like, initially it will remain attached to the cylinder, and then like in the later part there will be flow separation and the eddies or vortices will be formed, right? But that is a general thing which will happen. There could be a variety in detail if the Reynolds number is different, as like one of the things is already pointed out by me, that if it is turbulent flow, then the flow separation is delayed and it takes place at around 140 degrees, right? So in case of turbulent flow, he also mentioned the two forces which are very important to be considered here, and that is inertia force and the viscous force. So when the flow takes place over a surface, there is always a frictional resistance because of viscosity, and because of the velocity of the fluid, there is an inertia force. So the Reynolds number is basically the ratio of inertia force to viscous force, and depending upon the value of Reynolds number, the type of flow would vary a bit, and that is what he is trying to demonstrate. So first he like did a small experiment to find the velocity of the fluid, velocity of the water, right? So like with the help of that bob, he measured distance, the time taken for a particular distance, so that gave the velocity of the water. And now he is going to put this pipe in like he is going to submerge it into this tunnel. And because the diameter of this is known, you can calculate the Reynolds number. You also know the property of water based on the like temperature is known, so you can also calculate the other things for getting the Reynolds number. So he has actually this one pipe, as well as he's also going to take another smaller pipe. So that is how he could vary the value of Reynolds number. He is going to keep the velocity constant, but the diameter of the pipe changes, so the value of Reynolds number can be changed. And that's how you can see the effect of Reynolds number on type of flow. So let me play it further. So I think you are able to visualize the things. This dye of bright green or yellow, bright green color. There is a forward stagnation point on the right hand side, where the velocity almost reaches zero. Then the flow initially is laminar, and then a rectangular is here. It is laminar, and a rectangle kind of thing is drawn here, and you can see the separation taking place, right? So the here the separation is taking place. It's not remaining attached to the periphery of the cylinder. That is what is separation. And you can see the vortices or eddies being formed on the rear side of the cylinder. So he's talking about this retrograde flow, that is the flow changing locally near the cylinder, changing its direction and starting to move on the opposite side, and that is the cause of the generation of vortices or eddies. so he is demonstrating a special phenomena called vortex street. So at a particular value of Reynolds number, somewhere around 2000, what happens is that there is a generation of vortice alternatively on the different sides. As you can see, one vortice is generated here. Now next vortice will be generated here, and then they will move forward and continue moving in circular way. But then there is vortex shedding, means they cannot continue moving in the form of vortex. Finally, it will disappear and it will merge with the main flow. So this phenomena can be seen at lower value of Reynolds number. So when the Reynolds number are low, the effect of the viscous force is very high, and the flow is seen to be nearly laminar, though there is still generation of eddies. But still, even in eddies you can see some pattern. So that's the difference between turbulent flow and laminar flow, that is low Reynolds number and high Reynolds number. Now what he is doing next is he is changing the point at which the die is indicated, that is theta is equal to 0, theta is equal to some other value, let's say 80 degrees, theta is equal to, let's say 140 degrees. So he will inject the die at different angles, and with the help of that he is trying to demonstrate what is the type of flow taking place at different value of theta. Right, so you can expect that, let's say theta is equal to 40 degrees, then the flow should be attached to the cylinder. So that is what he would be able to demonstrate. Then let's say overall flow is laminar. I'll explain this point in again later on. The thing is, laminar and turbulent is not as simple as what it used to be in case of a flat plate. So the flow has a particular velocity. When the velocity is low, then uh, overall value of Reynolds number is such that you call it laminar, and when it is exceeding 2 into 10 raised to 5, you call it turbulent flow. But still, the turbulence doesn't set up from the very beginning. It sets up at a particular value of theta depending upon the velocity. Okay, so here what he is showing is that at what point the separation occurs, right? That is the most important part of this demonstration. Okay, so what he has demonstrated is at around -40, or you can say 140 degrees, there is a separation of flow. Like looking at the pattern of the movement of the die, you can understand that, right? So you are free to watch this video even later on to understand like completely, in case you have not understood it completely here. This demonstration has shown how the flow takes place over a cylinder in cross flow, and how the things change with different values of Reynolds. Okay, so what he basically told towards the later part is that the type of flow or flow pattern will depend upon the value of Reynolds number. So even if it is a, like in one case it is air, in the other case it is water, but if your Reynolds number come out to be the same, then the type of flow that you will observe will be the same, right? So based on Reynolds number, you can give some general observations, and that's the utility of non-dimensional numbers. So as it was told that here the velocity, if the velocity is such that Reynolds number definition, now you know it is rho v d upon mu, so it depends upon the upstream velocity. V is the upstream velocity, d is the diameter. So if the velocity is such that if your Reynolds number is less than 2 into 10 raised to 5, then generally it is seen that the flow separation takes place at around 80 degrees, right? At around 80 degrees. So in case of low velocities, the flow separation takes place earlier. Okay, but if the flow velocities are high, that is, if your Reynolds number is high, greater than 2 into 10 raised to 5, it is seen that the flow separation is delayed. Now, what is the reason for this delay? Is the reason for the delay is high inertia, which makes it to delay the separation, and the separation would take place at around 140 degrees. Now here, if you see the overall picture, what you find is that on the forward side of the cylinder, the pressure is positive, and on the back side, because of the wake region, the eddy formation, the pressure is negative. So because of that, there is a resistance to the flow, resistance offered to the flow. Now this doesn't happen in case of flow over a flat plate. So the drag force in case of flow over a flat plate is result of only the frictional resistance or because of the viscous resistance. But Here there is another component which is also playing a role, and it is called form drag, right? That is because of the shape or the resistance offered by the shape of the object, and sum of both of them together will make the drag force. The definition or the friction or it's not called friction coefficient anymore. Now it will be called drag coefficient, which combines the effect of the friction as well as the form drag. So this CD is defined as the drag force divided by area into 1/2 rho v square. V is the velocity, upstream velocity of the cylinder. So you may be interested in finding this to know the resistance to the flow. So that's about the CD, the drag coefficient. Uh, okay. It tells that if the Reynolds number is less than 2, then the separation is almost not seen, but at higher Reynolds number, you see the separation. And the critical Reynolds number in case of flow over a cylinder is 2 into 10 raised to 5. It was 5 into 10 raised to 5 in case of a flow over a flat plate, but here it is 2 into 10 raised to 5. Now, what is the difference between the separation taking place in case of lower velocities and in case of higher velocities? This is what you can see. If you are able to visualize the flow, then this is what you will see. So what you will see is if the velocity is lower, then the separation take place early, that is at around 80 degrees. This theta separation is around 80 degrees, just before this vertical line. But if the velocities are high, Reynolds number value is high, then what you see is there are two things that you will observe. One, here the flow is kind of laminar, right? That is because the local velocities are low. Though the macro velocity is high, the local velocity is low, and because of that, the flow that you will see inside the boundary layer is still kind of laminar. But then the velocity picks up, and there is transition and the flow becomes turbulent, right? The flow becomes turbulent, but still you can say that the separation has not occurred. You see the like a random movement pattern of the parcels of fluid. The flow becomes turbulent, but still it has remained attached to the cylinder. There is no separation, but you can see the distinct separation taking place around 40 degrees before this 180 degree line. So theta separation is around 180 degrees when the flow velocities are high. Okay. So based on the value of Reynolds number, the CD value has been plotted, uh, and you can see that for low value of Reynolds number, the CD can be given as 24 upon Reynolds number, but at higher values, it doesn't vary much in a way. You can say beyond 10 raised to 2, that is 1000, or rather beyond 1000, right? Here it is 100. Beyond 1000, it is not changing much, but then at 2 into 10 raised to 5, again just before that or just after that, 2 into 10 raised to 5, there is a dip, and then it again starts increasing slightly, right? And the pattern over the sphere and cylinder, though not perfectly same, but seems quite similar. Of course, this 24 upon Reynolds number is for the sphere as it is shown here. Okay, so theta separation taking place at 140 degrees in case of turbulent flow, right? This is turbulent flow, and theta separation taking place at around 80 degrees in case of the lower value of Reynolds number. Okay. Now we are more interested in the Nusselt number rather than the drag coefficient. So here there is a graph which gives the local value of Nusselt number with respect to theta. So what you find is that if the Reynolds number is low, this first graph and second graph, let's say this Reynolds number is 10 raised to 4. So what you see is that the Nusselt number or heat transfer coefficient is directly related to Nusselt number. So that continuously goes on decreasing, and then when the separation occurs, right, at around 80 degrees, it starts increasing, right? So heat transfer coefficient would be higher because the flow has become irregular, and there is a mixing taking place. So because of that mixing, the vortices and eddies, the heat transfer coefficient or Nusselt number starts increasing when the flow separation takes place. That is for low value of Reynolds number. Now, if Reynolds number value is high, then you see two minima taking place. This one, or you can focus on this one, 2 into 10 raised to 6. So what you see is that because the Reynolds number is high, initially the value keeps on decreasing, but then there is transition from laminar to turbulent flow, and because of that there is a sharp increase in the value of Nusselt number or heat transfer coefficient, but then it again starts decreasing. As we had seen in case of a flat plate, there is a like onset of the viscous sublayer even inside the turbulent flow. So it keeps on decreasing, but then again at around 140 degrees there is flow separation, and it again starts increasing. So you see two minima when the flow is turbulent, like this is one minimum value, this is local minimum value, another local minimum value. So you see two minima in case of the high value of Reynolds number or turbulent flow, but you see only one minima when the flow is laminar. And at low value of Reynolds number, the pattern that you see is different. That is, after the separation, the value of heat transfer coefficient or Nusselt number remains nearly constant. But this is local value of Nusselt number or heat transfer coefficient. Actually, finally, we are not interested in the local values. We are interested in the average value of whether it is CD or it is Nusselt number or heat transfer coefficient. So these generally again have been found with the help of experiments by different researchers, and they provide some correlation between Nusselt number and other non-dimensional number, and those two numbers on which the Nusselt number depends is again Reynolds number and Prandtl number. And researchers have given the correlation. Many of them are in the form of some constant into Reynolds number raised to m and Prandtl number raised to 1 by 3. And so the depending upon the Reynolds number, the C value and the M value may be different, right? So this Hilpert has given the correlation between Nusselt number and Reynolds number and Prandtl number in this form. And there are other researchers also, they have given it for maybe for somewhat different cases. So here there is one by Zukaskas, and it is in the form C into Reynolds number raised to m, Prandtl number raised to n, and then again multiplication of Prandtl number upon Prandtl number raised to s. Prandtl number suffix s. That now when there is a suffix s used, it is the surface property. It is the surface property. Normally, what we did in the two examples that we solved, we took the property at the mean film temperature, that which is the average of surface temperature and the fluid temperature. When the surface temperature and fluid temperature are not very much different, this is sufficient. That is, you evaluate the properties at the average temperature or the mean fluid temperature. But if the surface and the fluid are at a very different temperature, the gap is very high, in that case it is always advisable to use some formula like this, where in one case when there is no suffix used, it is at the fluid property, it is the fluid or bulk fluid property, right? The fluid temperature is to be used for that, for evaluating that property, and the surface temperature is to be used here. So if there is not much difference between the fluid temperature and the surface temperature, then this what is there in the bracket would come out to be near 1. So then this portion doesn't have much significance. But when the difference is high, you will find that it varies or it deviates much from the value 1. So in those cases, it is important to evaluate this, and this would be a better correlation to be used when the surface temperature and the fluid temperature are very much different from each other. And as you can see, this can be applied for a range of Prandtl number from 0.7 to 500. So you should not apply it beyond 500. Of course, most of the example that we take Prandtl number will be in this range, but you should not be using this correlation if this is to be used, let's say, for Prandtl number equal to 10,000. And Reynolds number range is also quite wide, 1 to 10 raised to 6, but you cannot use it beyond 10 raised to 6. That is, if Reynolds number is 10 raised to 8, you should not be using it. So this is the correlation given by Zukaskas, and based on his experiments where he might have performed the experiments in this range of Reynolds number and Prandtl number. We have one more general correlation also by Churchill and Bernstein, and it is in this form, though the formula seems to be a bit more complex. It may take more time to evaluate, but in this age of computers, it's generally not much of an issue. But it's applicable over a very wide range. Only for very low value of Reynolds number it won't be applicable. Otherwise, it is applicable to a very wide range of Reynolds number and Prandtl number. Only condition is that your Reynolds number into Prandtl number should be greater than or equal to 0.2. Now you might have a question in your mind whether you need to remember this formula or correlations. No, you don't need to remember them, but they may not be directly given in the problem, but it may be given in appendix, and you may have to choose the right formula. So I may give the formula as it is, the way you see it here, but you understand that you know the nature of the correlation. So if you have done enough practice, you know that yes, this kind of formula is for flow over a cylinder. And again, there is one more indicator, NUD. It means it is for cylinder, it is not for plate, right? So from that also you can make out. So you don't need to remember the formula, but you need to do required practice so that you are familiar with the formula. Now that general form of the relation which was given like this one, you will have different value of M and C for different value of Reynolds number as it is shown here in case you are using that correlation. But if you are using Churchill-Bernstein correlation, then you have you have to just evaluate Reynolds number and Prandtl number, right? There is no exponent which is varying. There are fixed exponents to Reynolds number and Prandtl number as it is seen here, right? So next, there is a table given for different other geometries. The flow over such geometries, you have to get